What is going on, everybody, and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. My name is ELYYT, and if you're new, slap that subscription button to the channel. I'm going to be giving you my recap of match day 1, which is throughout a few days, so it's not actually one day. It's match week 1, and that is going to be the topic of today's video. Guys, so go ahead and drop a like if you do end up enjoying, and let's hop into it.
And I run around the town and act like I don't care. So when you see me,
Group A is still up for grabs. With Uruguay coming away with 3 points, we still saw Egypt hold them off for 91 minutes. And let's remind ourselves, Uruguay has one of the best strike forces in the world with Edinson Cavani and Luis Suarez. And despite Luis Suarez missing a few chances, Egypt were still able to hold off defensively against the very top-heavy Uruguayan squad, despite the fact that I guess they do have Diego Godin, and they've got Jose Maria Menez, who did score the winning goal. Nonetheless, Egypt are still looking strong. That was without Mohamed Salah. So now that they're bringing back Mohamed Salah for what seems to be the two easier games in their group against Russia and against Saudi Arabia, I think that they will be able to hold off Russia, which goes against my predictions at the beginning of the World Cup, where I said I think Russia is going to come in second in the group. I think Egypt will be able to take all 3 points today against Russia. Now, by the time that this video goes up, that game will have already been played. So at least one of my predictions is going to come true, because for this, you know, at the beginning of the World Cup, I did predict Russia was going to come in second in the group. But I also do think that with Salah back, and with how strong we saw Egypt against Uruguay without Salah, I think that they might be able to take Russia despite their home field advantage. Unfortunately for Saudi Arabia, you had a good run, but good news is you don't have too far of a flight from Russia, but you're not getting out of the group, considering you lost 5-0 to Russia, and ultimately your best trait of that game was a few tight passes up on the top of the field. Nonetheless, after those first 15 minutes of the game were over, you guys showed no passion, no strengths, and no really ability to get out of what seems to be one of the easier groups in the World Cup.
Group B.
Group B is still pretty interesting as well, given the fact that Iran are leading the group with 3 points, Portugal and Spain tied with 1 point, and then you've got Morocco at the bottom. So I think Morocco, you needed to beat Iran to have any chance of getting out of this group. So we'll see him maybe in 2022. But when it comes down to it, I still think that Portugal and Spain are going to come out of this group with 7 points each. And it's going to come down to goal differential on who takes the top spot. Because I don't see Iran, I don't see Morocco getting a point off of any of these teams. Portugal look too strong. Ronaldo is still in form at 33 years old. And then you've got Spain, the best midfield in the World Cup, no doubt about it. They passed brilliantly. They were able to put 3 against Portugal there. And both of these teams, Portugal and Spain, looked like they could go far in this World Cup.
Group C.
Group C saw 2 outright winners in the first match day. France over Australia and Denmark over Peru. But here's the thing, Peru looks super strong, and they were able to put a couple of good chances against Denmark, but ultimately missing a few of them, and they could have come out with the 3 points that game, unfortunately losing to Denmark. But France also leaving a lot of questions rather than answers against Australia. It came down to a late lucky goal by Pogba, and they only won 2-1 against Australia, who have proven to be a pretty solid team defensively. They know their strengths and they know their weaknesses, and they play to that. We saw that in a friendly match against Colombia a few weeks ago, where they were able to force out a 0-0 draw. So Australia, they're seeming a little bit more strong than I had anticipated, but nonetheless, they needed to get a point off of France there. And France, they did the work and they got the 3 points nonetheless, and I think it was deserved, but I thought they were going to be a lot stronger, which gives me the anticipation that they might not have the strength to actually end up winning the World Cup, which is who I predicted to win the World Cup back in January. Now, if I were to change my mind, I'm thinking Brazil still seem the strongest in terms of overall possibility and potential of winning the World Cup. But then again, I don't want to go with straight up who the strongest teams are to win every game, because we know that's not how the World Cup works. Sometimes it comes down to the mental state of the players, which games they have in which order, which I think is one of the reasons why Russia could end up coming out of Group A. It's because of their order of the group. Russia play against Saudi Arabia, and then they get to play against Egypt, and then they play against Uruguay, who will most likely be through by then, and maybe take it a little bit easier in their third game to prevent injuries and fatigue going into the knockout stages. Which is why sometimes the strongest team doesn't always go through, and then obviously sometimes they just come out thinking they're going to win, thinking that it's going to be a cakewalk, and then they struggle, which we saw a ton in the first match day. Nonetheless, France were able to get the 3 points, which is what matters, and it might be a wake-up call, but how many wake-up calls do you need, France? You not only lost to Colombia, you drew against the USA, who couldn't even qualify for CONCACAF, which breaks my heart, don't get me wrong, but you guys need to be stronger than that, France, if you want any chance of getting beyond the round of 16, honestly, and maybe getting beyond the round of 8, doing better than what you guys did in 2014. But looking at Australia, they've got 3 tough games in this group. Peru, that's a South American team, guys. You can't count out any South American team in the World Cup, because that is one of the toughest qualifiers in the world. I'd say it's tougher than Europe, which would be the second toughest, given the fact that you only get 2 teams out of each group, and sometimes the groups are pretty difficult, and that's why Italy and Netherlands didn't get through. But nonetheless, we saw Chile not get through in South America, and only 5 teams do, and we saw Uruguay, they cruised through, Brazil cruised through, Colombia did pretty well coming in third, and then Argentina and Peru came down to the last match day, and Peru showed what they were made of. So Peru, they could still get out of this group despite the fact that they lost the first game against Denmark, with a France team that's looking pretty weak right now, and then also Australia, which is a team that Peru can beat on any given day if they play to their full potential. I think Peru could still come out of this group with 6 points, but they need to get their shit together.
Group D.
Group D was a big surprise for some of us, but a lot of us also predicted that Argentina would struggle in their group. Now, I was not one of them. I'm not going to act like I was. I thought Argentina would cruise through this group despite the speculation that they're not playing well in the qualifiers, that they're not playing well in friendlies, getting beat by Spain 6-1 in a friendly about a month ago. That does speak volume, but given the fact that it was just a friendly, sometimes they don't matter, sometimes they don't mean much. It looked like it did mean something, and it looks like a lot of these friendlies did mean something, because those friendlies have been a good indication on what's happening in this World Cup. Argentina struggle against a dentist and a filmmaker. Their Argentinian squad, Marcos Rojo, come on, you gotta step up against Iceland. I know Finn Bogason is good. I know Sigurdsson is good. But overall, Iceland isn't a strong team, and they shouldn't be getting out of this group. But Argentina, give them a point on the first match day. So what do they gotta do to step it up? Firstly, they gotta get Messi in space. Messi, every single time he got the ball that game, quadruple teamed, and he had nowhere to go with it and nothing to do with it. They held possession, and they did overall play better than Iceland, but look at that scoreline. It's still 1-1. That's what matters, and you're not going to get an easier game throughout this group. Croatia looking good against Nigeria, and then again, Nigeria came out of the African qualifiers, which aren't the easiest in the world, but also aren't the hardest in the world. I think Nigeria has a lot of individual talent that could shine in one of these games. If that is against Argentina, Argentina are going to need to step up and show why they deserve to be in this World Cup, because again, they almost didn't qualify. So this is to you, Sampaoli. If you're going to play Lionel Messi in that false 9 position, you're going to need wingers who actually apply pressure and spread the ball out wide, because Pavon and Banega weren't doing that, and they weren't really a threat to the Icelandic defense whatsoever. Let's get Dybala on the pitch, and if you're going to play Higuain and Aguero, let's go ahead and have them getting out wide as well, just to spread the ball and give Messi some more space in the middle, because if you're running a false 9 Messi and then you've also got Higuain and Aguero up top, you're not giving Messi any space to do any of his magic, and you're not going to be winning games, and you might end up getting grouped if you don't fix that problem. When it comes down to it, guys, I think Argentina are still going to get through with Croatia in this group, but it does bother me that this is Messi's possibly last World Cup, and Sampaoli is not really giving him much of a chance to do something this World Cup and end up getting a trophy with his country for the first time since he played with the Argentinian Olympic team when he was about 20 years old.
Group P.
Group E had a surprising match as well, because I thought Brazil would cakewalk through this group, even though there are a couple of strong teams. Switzerland being one of them, and Switzerland were able to get 1 point off of Brazil, which is a brilliant result for them. But if you look on the Brazil side, is it a great result for Brazil? Of course not. They were looking for all 3 points in this game, and they were able, after 30 minutes, to really just completely control this match. They were already up 1-0 with a Felipe Coutinho goal. They had way more chances than Switzerland, and honestly, when I was watching the game, I thought it was going to be ending 3 or 4-0 to Brazil. But right after halftime, Switzerland quickly score a surprise goal with Zuber, and ultimately Brazil do not get that momentum back. It is pretty standstill for the rest of the match, and Switzerland are able to hold off Brazil to get that point and really keep their hopes alive of getting out of this group. So, with that being said, what's going to happen in these next 2 match days in this group? Are Brazil going to end up with 7 points, or will there be a big surprise with one of the favorites of this World Cup getting grouped? Now, I don't think that Brazil are going to be getting grouped. We've got Costa Rica in this group, and despite their masterclass run of 2014, it's not going to happen again this year. Guys, the only team that is in CONCACAF that has a chance to go far this year is Mexico, and that is the truth of it. We had a very weak CONCACAF, and yes, I know that USA still didn't get through, which shows why Costa Rica are even weaker than a lot of people already think. Because USA was able to put up decent games, or at least one decent game against Costa Rica. And Panama, which is another team from CONCACAF, USA were able to beat 4-0. And USA is a team that couldn't get out of probably the second easiest for qualifiers in the world, Asia being probably the first easiest, or possibly Oceania. But then again, Oceania has to play the South American 5th team, so that's probably not even easier than CONCACAF. So given that, Costa Rica, they really aren't that strong right now, and I think that they're going to end up with 0 points in this group. They'd be lucky to force a draw against any team in this group, given the fact that I think Serbia might have been their easier game, because we're going against Switzerland now, who have proven themselves against Brazil, and then you've got Brazil. So Costa Rica would be lucky to get a point. So you did well in 2014, you're not going to do well again in 2018. And we might see you again in 2022, given the fact that CONCACAF is that easy to qualify from. So, with that being said, guys, I do think Brazil are going to end up taking this group 7-1. That was their wake-up call. I did mention that for France as well, but then again, Brazil, they cruised through qualifiers. They beat the same Austria. They destroyed the same Austrian team that Germany lost against. They cruised through Croatia, who's a team that I think could easily beat any of the other teams in this group. And ultimately, I do think that Brazil are going to need that wake-up call, because you don't want to be getting to the semifinals of the knockout stages before you need that wake-up call in the World Cup. Sometimes it's got to come early, and we saw that in 2014 for Germany. That wake-up call came against Ghana, where they drew in the group stage and really gave USA a chance to come out on top of that group. Nonetheless, they stepped up, they started playing much better after that draw against Ghana, and they ended up winning the World Cup, and I think something similar might be happening here for Brazil.
Group F.
Group F is possibly the group of death. You've got Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. 4 teams that I think in different groups would get out into the knockout stages, but there's only going to be 2, obviously. And which 2 is that going to be? We've got Germany taking a loss in the first match day, and then we also saw Sweden do very, very well against South Korea. Now, South Korea with Heung-min Son, I thought that they could make a run. They did well against Colombia in qualifiers. They were able to beat them 2-1, but then they also struggled a little bit as well. So they were up and down. They could get a couple points out of this group still, but nonetheless, I don't think they're going to be getting through. So I'm going to go ahead and count South Korea out. They're not going to be getting through, but then you've got Mexico with 3 points, Sweden with 3 points, and Germany with 0, and they've still got to play South Korea and Sweden, a very, very strong defensive Sweden side. Now, normally Sweden is more top-heavy, but this year they're definitely not, and they didn't bring Ibrahimovic to the World Cup, which I think was probably a mistake. He's still one of the best strikers in the world, and I think that at least having him on the bench would have been a good threat to bring onto the pitch. Nonetheless, they got 3 points against South Korea, and that's what they needed. But they do need to continue this form against 2 of the better teams in the group, Germany and a very informed Mexico. Mexico dominated the CONCACAF, and they're still on their rampage right now, beating Germany, one of the favorites to win the World Cup, in the first match. So, what's it going to take, Germany? You've been really struggling. You only beat Saudi Arabia, a team that Russia beat 5-0, 2-1. You lost against Austria, and now you lost against Mexico. If this form continues, you're going to get grouped because Sweden's looking good. And if they're able to hold you guys to a draw, it's over. Because then they've got Mexico, who they could beat, and Mexico are probably going to be through given the fact that they only need to beat South Korea. So Germany are looking really bad right now in a tough group that they needed to get a result against Mexico in, and they didn't. So Mexico and Sweden could be through in this group unless Germany gets their shit together.
Group G.
Group G is one of the easiest to predict groups in the World Cup. At least we thought until it came down to the 91st minute where Harry Kane put England through against Tunisia. That was too close, England. What are you doing? You're leaving it a little bit late there against a Tunisian squad you should probably beat every single time you play them. Nonetheless, you got the 3 points, and I think that's something to be proud of. But you've also got Belgium in this group. Luckily for them, they've got a pretty crazy Group H that they're going to be going against in the first round of the knockout stages. So I think no matter what, England, you should be getting to the round of 8. No excuses. Round of 8 here. You've got a very, very easy run in this World Cup to at least get to the round of 8. Because right now, Group H is upside down. They're not looking good, and I think England can beat any team in that group. But you've got Belgium in Group G. Who's going to come out on top of this game? I don't think it matters for who's going to come out of this knockout stages, because Panama is easily the worst team in this tournament along with Saudi Arabia, and that's something that I predicted before the World Cup even started. I put Panama as the 32nd best team in the World Cup. You do the math. Then I put 31st as Saudi Arabia. So I don't think England are going to struggle at all against Panama. And honestly, I don't even think Tunisia is going to struggle at all against Panama. So it'll end up with Panama at 0 points. Belgium and England are just going to be playing this game to honestly see who's the better team, who's going to be going farther, and who looks stronger to end up winning this World Cup. Because if you guys remember my predictions from January, I had Belgium actually getting to the Final Four, to the semifinals. They actually beat Brazil in my predictions, which is looking more and more possible given the fact that Belgium did destroy Panama, which is very good, and they showed all of their strength here. They've got Dries Mertens who can pull something out of his ass and end up scoring an amazing goal to put them in the lead. Lukaku is looking super strong with De Bruyne creating chances. Don't forget, they still got Eden Hazard, who is creating very, very good chances. He just wasn't really lucky against Panama, but I think he's going to be a big factor in the future games, especially against England. So I think Belgium are going to still top this group. I'm going to stick with my predictions from January in this group. Belgium on top, England in second, but England could still get far in this World Cup because, as I said, let's move on to Group H. They're upside down, guys.
Group H.
What happened in match day 1? Poland lose against Senegal 2-1. Granted, they did get a little bit unlucky, and they still looked very, very good, but so did Senegal. Their attack, they didn't really even need Sadio Mane to do too much today. Koulibaly on defense. They've got Moussa Sow up top. They've got Niasse up top. They've got Sadio Mane up top. They've got Balde Diao up top. They're looking very, very strong all around. So that is something that they need to get out of this very unpredictable group. Colombia against Japan? Really? 2-1? 2-1. Now, I did think that they were going to struggle to score against Japan. I didn't think that they would give up 2 goals. I thought the game would probably go something along the lines of 1-0 or 2-0 to Colombia. I didn't think Japan was going to come out with really any points in this group, but they end up beating the team I thought was going to top this group, which is super surprising to me. Now, Colombia, you need to learn to finish. This Japanese defense isn't that strong. They've got Yoshida at center back, who does have some experience not only in the Premier League, but also for Japan, but ultimately, this isn't a strong defense. You got to start finishing. They haven't been able to finish against Australia. They haven't been able to finish really in any of their friendlies. What are you doing, Falcao? They've got to start putting away more goals because this Colombian defense, without Frank Fabra getting injured before the World Cup started, they're not going to go much farther if they can't get it together defensively because they can't rely on their attack right now. Falcao, even though he has been in form for Monaco, hasn't been in form for Colombia. and ultimately they can't come out of this group by drawing against Poland and drawing against Senegal. They're gonna need 2 wins against Poland and Senegal, which is gonna be very, very difficult because Poland are gonna come out next game. They're gonna want all 3 points. They know that they can still get out of this group despite their loss in the first game. So that game for Colombia versus Poland is really going to decide, in my opinion, who's going to come out of this group in second. So is it going to be Colombia? Is it going to be Poland? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. Give me your opinions down below. I would love to hear them and discuss it with you guys. And right now, I can't get on Twitter because it's locked me out. So I made an Instagram. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. It's at ELYYT. I just started it. We only have like 250 followers right now. So let's see if we can hit 1,000 within the next like week or two. So that'd be absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for watching. It was a lot of fun recording this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.